The Blue Book and I have formed this union. Our sole purpose is to provide parents insight, opportunity, but most importantly, access. Okay, I want to welcome everyone. This is our first foray into a live Q&A. My name is Walter Beede. Joining me tonight will be someone that I have had an open dialogue with for 24 months. Just overall topic of baseball. Many of you are familiar with the terminology of the Blue Book. I really want to get parents to understand, in today's world of Google and other, information-based sites, Bing and social media, we don't use encyclopedias anymore. We don't use books anymore. We kind of go directly to the internet. But I, as a young man, probably in my mid to late teens, stumbled across a Baseball Bluebook at my local library, and I was astonished to find out that in it had all the names and addresses of scouts and general managers and college coaches. Back then, we used this thing called the Wild Wild West, which is the U.S. Post Office, to type something up, handwrite something, and then mail it off with a stamp and hope you would get a return envelope with something in it. But today we're going to talk with Eric. Eric, I can never pronounce your last name correctly, so I'm going to let you fire that off at people. Wubana. Okay. And Eric is the Baseball Blue Book, and I'm happy to have him join me on an ongoing basis on probably a little of both Tuesdays and Thursdays from this point forward. We'll get to that in a minute, but welcome aboard, Eric.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it, Walter. It's funny. I love talking to guys that kind of found the Blue Book in their own kind of journey to their next level. Primarily, the coaches directory was used for a lot of scouting departments in the major leagues, but there's a lot of value. And what we've done now is just really take that directory. And I love what you always say, Walter. It's access. We've got the most comprehensive coaches directory. Let's turn it into the most comprehensive baseball directory. So an app that everything's at your fingertips. Find anything that you need, from training facilities to recruiters to trainers to coaches, players, whatever you need. It's all in one area, focused on baseball only. Kind of weed yourself through all the chaos. I think Walter was just talking about that earlier. The social media platforms right now, you can get lost. You go to there to look for baseball, and you get caught up in politics and entertainment and football and everything else. And we want to keep it focused and streamlined to baseball.
That is absolutely the case. And over the weekend, let's call it a light bulb moment. Several parents, and listen, I get this question all the time. I talk about parents. I don't feel it's my place to mention names. I think if you look on social media, particularly on Twitter, and you look at any of the threads or engagements, I think people will be able to figure out who is sending what or so forth. But I firmly believe now it's time, and I'm just having this discussion earlier with Eric, we need to make content that is available and, most importantly, free. I speak from this as a parent, and I have a story that kind of ticks with this, but I'm going to give you what happened over the weekend. Had a parent who had to pass on a camp, an upcoming camp, had to say no to their son. And obviously their son was disappointed. A lot of it has to do with the holiday season. And sometimes parents, as a parent, we have to make difficult decisions that aren't popular with our children. And Lord knows I've lived that with both my 32-year-old and my now 29-year-old. And so I want to share with some folks, I want to give you an opportunity to gain some insight as to why Eric and I are going to be doing this on Tuesday evenings. But first, I want to encourage everyone. If you have a question, it's a live stream for a reason. We want to answer questions. I want to answer questions in real time. I don't want to have to kind of fall back on the standard questions of when does recruiting season start. I want specific questions so that we can help people. That's the end game here, is simply straightforward to help people. I do want to ask folks, if you do find your way through to the YouTube channel, yes, I'm asking for you to subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It allows me to make my time available to all the parents and all the student athletes without having to ask you to send any money, pay for any service. YouTube handles all that. You just watch the videos and YouTube will handle that in the future. Social media, Twitter, Baseball 11, Baseball Lifer 11. Over on Instagram, I've changed it over to Baseball Lifer, YouTube, Baseball Lifer. All I'm asking in return is for you to subscribe to the channel, spread the word, and let's help some more people along the way. So back to the story, and I don't think a lot of people understand this. When my sons were going through this process, and I was a dad, I had stepped away from being a college coach. The world of travel baseball was in its infancy. It was really a new frontier. It was really about the elite or the high level above average student athlete finding their way to different parts of the country to compete against similar caliber student athletes. Going to fast forward to a story in 2009. For the vast majority of my son's high school career, they were relatively unknown. They weren't highly recruited. People knew who they were based on a local area, New England area, because they saw them working out with me at various college practices and so forth. But anyway, fast forward to the summer of 2009. Summer of 2009 finds Tyler essentially in the high school level at about 82 to 85, 86 miles an hour. And this was his sophomore year. And Boston College and a few other local schools had kind of come to kind of see and evaluate Tyler. He had a projectable body, and he had the ability to pitch. Over the summer, probably mid to late June, he attended an event in Pennsylvania, one of the showcase events that he wanted to go to with a friend. I could not attend. I had to work. At the time, I owned a small courier company. The reason for the story is this. Up until that event, Tyler was not ranked. Tyler was not heavily recruited. He was a sophomore in high school and had just completed his sophomore year. And so he was a rising junior. That event was held in the latter part of June of 2009. At that event, suddenly Tyler exploded. He went to 88.92. He then was invited to an event out on the West Coast, which I allowed him to attend because he was an alternate for the area code team that year as a sophomore, which was quite an honor to be an alternate. Just so happens that the event was held at the University of Southern California during the first week of July. Again, I hadn't been able to get out there. By the time I did get out to California for the Long Beach area code event, he had become a phenomenon, meaning that he was suddenly being recruited and had a healthy scholarship to the University of Southern California, UCLA, all the schools that had seen him participate in this particular event. Suddenly, he went from an unknown and an alternate at the area code level to now being asked to pitch in one of the early games at the area code event, which was a very prestigious opportunity, none of which had been planned for either time parameters or, more importantly, financially. So what does this have to do with the family that I was speaking with this weekend? At the completion of the area code event, Tyler was then invited to a couple other events. I didn't have the heart, nor did I have the ability or wherewithal to look my son in the eyes and say that we couldn't afford it, that I certainly had no credit cards at the time. I had no funds at the time. I wasn't working. I live week to week, still do to this day. And I couldn't look him in the eye and say, no, you couldn't go to the Aflac Junior All-American game, which was being held at the University of San Diego. So we boarded a bus. We took the bus down to San Diego. And I sat outside of Starbucks with Tyler. And the reason why I sat at Starbucks wasn't the coffee. It was because it had free Wi-Fi. And I could take out my laptop. And when I put out a post on Facebook, that old dinosaur of social media, I just requested anyone that might be able to help me out here, that I was stuck, and Tyler had been invited to a prestigious event. And thanks to a very, very, very good friend of mine, Rob Banal, who offered me hotel points for both a rental car as well as a hotel. And so the moral of that story is I've been there. I know what it feels like. I know the pressure that parents feel. And so that light bulb went on, and I just felt that it was time to start doing things without any purpose, without any call to action. It's time to answer your questions. And so that's what we're going to do here tonight. I have a few people that have already sent in some questions. So if you see me looking to my right, there are questions coming in. Unlike my teammate here, Eric, who looks well off with his glasses, I have to put the old reading glasses on here. So I'm going to begin, and we're going to answer our first question. And tonight, and you'll be able to join in if you have a question and you want to have myself or possibly Eric answer it. Now's the time to put it out there. And I'm going to start with what year in high school did your boys commit to a college? Good question. Tyler, I'm going to start with my youngest. Tyler committed to, as most people know, Vanderbilt University in the fall of his junior year. He had reached a point where he had become tiresome of all of the phone calls that he had to make. And I don't think we place enough emphasis on informing families that if you have the opportunity to become recruited, it can become a pretty laborious process for your son because of I have to call this coach and then I have to call that one in a half an hour. This coach wants to keep talking to me, and so it's a tough process. And so I always try to encourage families to really slow your process down. For those of you that do watch on Thursday evening, John McCormick, the head coach at Florida Atlantic, gave us a great analogy. And it was when students get their driver's license, that's a great time in a student's life to begin to kind of take the college selection process be more accountable for their own personal decision. And the reason for that was, he said, up until that point, most student athletes are driven to practices and games and workouts and lessons by their parents. But when they get their license, they have the ability to make that decision on their own. And so if it's really important for them, they'll continue to drive to their workouts and lessons, but they begin to have an understanding of who they are and where they want to go for more than just baseball, and Tyler at the time was 16 years old. It was his junior fall. And we had some history with Tim Corbin. I've known Tim for over 40 years. So there was a certain level of comfort for Tyler with regard to Vanderbilt. So that's kind of how that decision went. And so now I have questions coming in on Twitter that I want to get to. Again, I apologize for looking down, but I do want to answer these. Okay, the next question that's coming in, this is kind of a similar one, but how did I know as a dad that my boys were going to play college baseball, or that they wanted to play college baseball? Well, a little about that was I was a college coach, so my boys were around a lot of my practices when they were young. And one of the mandates that I used to put on them was if they were so inclined to go out between the lines during a practice, whether that was batting practice or somebody was taking ground balls or what have you, that they were to be treated as if they were a teammate and not my son. So I used to say to both my boys, unless you're prepared to go out there and play catch, as everybody else is playing catch, they're not going to take it easy on you. So my boys had been around the college environment. I don't think it scared them, and I certainly think they had a good understanding of what awaited them. My oldest son took a few years to develop. He was a great catcher. He could stop a bowling ball, coming in at 100 miles an hour, and he could handle an egg without breaking it. I mean, he had really good hands, but he was blessed with arm strength as well, and he went on to pitch in college and throw in the 90s as well. My youngest one, both my boys played multiple sports, but they had made it pretty clear at an early age, probably junior high, that they aspired to play baseball in college. And I didn't push either way. Tyler could have been a college football player, probably a college basketball player, but he was a Division I caliber football recruit. He just knew he wanted to play baseball. And so that's how he went down there. Eric, did you play a lot of high school sports, multiple sports, or?
I did. I played baseball. Obviously that was my favorite. But I played football. I played basketball. I was kind of whatever sport was in the season. I think that's what a lot of people did. There wasn't a lot of opportunities to play off season. And so you played the sport that was available. You hear that. That's a really good point to bring up. I do a lot of podcasts, my podcast channel, Baseball Bluebook podcast, just on Apple and Spotify. I like to interview coaches and just ask about their journeys. And one of the things that comes up a lot is what are you looking for? And we're talking D3s, we're talking NAIAs, we're talking JUCO schools, some Division twos, a lot of really good programs, good players. They always like with the multi-sport guys, a lot more flexibility, a lot more when you think about the muscles and what you do in other sports, it makes reaction times better. It takes, the way that you're thinking of the game, it increases really athletic IQ. So that's what I did. I thought it was really good and focused my latter years in baseball. And I think it really helped.
Okay. Well, I think it's important I get a lot of people that are asking how to ask questions here tonight. First of all, if you're on the live stream, you can go ahead and type in via Twitter. You can type in via YouTube. You can type in via Facebook Live. Once you type in your question, it's going to come to us on my screen. And again, I apologize. I can't see anything. I'm blind as a bat without my readers. But I do have a question from a mom, and she wants me to discuss a little bit about the mental component, the mindset component that athletes find themselves in because they have a lot of adults pulling for their time. This is something that I think we don't discuss enough, or we don't bring to the table enough as both adults to our younger student athletes. I know that I've talked to Tamara Seaman, who is from Georgia, was a former Division I lacrosse, field hockey player at Duke, and she brings this up all the time. And the interaction between parents and student athlete. When a student athlete is in a competitive environment, there's a lot of things going on in their minds. And I learned this at a very late stage with my sons, and I wish I had understood it earlier, meaning that I had a tough time as a coach to take my coaching hat off and put my dad hat on. So whenever I would begin to talk to my sons, it came out as coach talk. It wasn't dad talk. And I never allowed them to express to me first or ask me or engage with me first. I tended to be the one that jumped in. And so we have to understand when student athletes are in a competitive environment, whether it's baseball or any other sport, first of all, they want to do good. They want to do well. They want to perform well. They want to do it for not only themselves, but they want to make parents happy. They want to make their friends, their teammates, their coaches happy. So whenever there's a letdown, maybe making an error, possibly striking out, etc., they feel like they're letting us down as parents. They're letting their friends and teammates down, their coaches down. And so it's a really kind of a minefield that we find ourselves in as parents in today's world, because the number of cameras that people now carry around, I used to have to carry around a camcorder that was the size of a refrigerator, to be able to get anything from my kids. But now they just have phones out. Well, not only are they videotaping their children, but they're also videotaping our children. And so that peer pressure, that pressure, that they know they're going to, if they mess up, they could be on social media. They could have video could get around in a text exchange, etc. So the mental component, and I've talked about this before, parents need to have that discussion of whatever you do on a field athletically has no bearing on how much I care for you, love you. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters to me. Don't worry about falling or failing. It can be disappointing. Of course, it's disappointing. It's no more disappointing to strike out with the bases loaded than it is to get a 72 on a test that you thought you did really well with. But I think it's important to allow student athletes to kind of vent when they are ready to vent, or share when they're ready to share. That's my opinion as a dad. And so, that mental mindset now is a big deal, not only at the college level and obviously the professional level, but it's really starting to make its way down to the high school level. Let me throw my glasses on again. Okay, I'm not going to use names, but another baseball mom. What advice do you have for a pitcher who throws tricky pitches? Okay, I'm going to think that's pitchability, but low velocity due to development. Let's see. 6'4", currently 6'1", 150. Post-grad, okay, currently junior in high school. Okay, this is right up my alley. And this is why we're doing this. You know, we all feel like we're missing out, like we're getting lost, like we're overwhelmed. We got transfer portals and post-grad schools, and travel ball costs are skyrocketing. And all of those are telling parents, if you get on the train, if you don't get on the train, you're going to miss out and your son's going to be left behind. And whether that's the travel ball train, the strength training train, the post-grad school, et cetera, or more importantly, the college recruiting. First of all, I can tell you definitively, I've been doing this for over 35 years. I can tell you that it's never too late. One of the biggest things that I think was a negative for my son was being told he didn't throw hard enough. Now, I'm not comparing my son to your son, but if you know he's going to end up being 6'4", if you know that he's very projectable, 150 as a 16-year-old doesn't mean 150 as an 18 or 19-year-old.
Right.
And you really don't have to be in a rush to go from 150 to 180. What you want to do is have a plan. And so a plan is nothing more than a daily journal that tracks caloric intake, changing your strength program. In other words, let's start with caloric intake. A lot of parents spend a lot of money on lessons. A lot of parents spend a lot of money on travel teams, recruiting services to get videos out there. But what we neglect over and above the mental component that we just discussed is that strength and size component. I have this discussion with endless amounts of parents this time of year. Right now, it's not about playing games. Right now, it's not being in a showcase. It's about focusing attention to detail on strength, size, and speed. Now, speed can be foot speed, it can be arm speed, it can be batting, hitting, power, etc. But it starts with a quality strength program. This is not something you can just show up at your local YMCA. You really want to get, before any student athlete does any sort of strength training, what we want to do is get a movement screen on your son, meaning a PT, a kinesiologist, a certified trainer that can do an individual movement screen or evaluation on your student athlete. That's one. Because if you do know he's going to be 6'4", and right now he's slender, believe it or not, I used to have that problem. Obviously, as you can tell, I no longer have that. My son, Tyler, was a pipe cleaner, and they used to make fun of him, said a good wind was going to knock him over. And it wasn't until his freshman and sophomore year where he started to take that daily caloric intake to heart. So that means if you listen to guys like Josh Heenan, Eric Cressy, Nunzio, Ben Fairchild, Mike Reinhold, all these, prolific strength trainers, they'll tell you that you want to try to get in that 1,000 to 1,500 calories by breakfast time. Bring some snacks to school, eat those snacks, Metrex Colossal bars, protein shakes, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You want to try to get 5,000 to 10,000 calories. The next thing you want to do, understand it's not too late. If you're a pitcher and you have pitchability today, that doesn't mean you won't add velocity later. So don't get caught up in the velocity. I know because that happened to Tyler. He was a pitchability guy that kept being told he didn't throw hard enough. And then ultimately it all clicked in his junior year. And so what you really want to begin to focus on over and above strength conditioning and nutrition, caloric intake, is playing catch with the football, playing catch with the softball, play catch more, pitch less. Don't chase velocity. Don't chase pitching. Build arm health on top of arm strength. So you want to make sure the arm strength is going to come from the football, from the softball, from playing catch with the baseball. Long toss. Long toss is different for every throwing athlete. What works for some doesn't work for others. So you really need to have an individual game plan there. But as a parent, don't get concerned that it's too late. I would suggest making sure that you have a proper evaluation of your son's throwing skills, meaning arm path. Is your son sequencing properly? Get those answers while building strength, and then you can begin to go out into that recruiting realm. Everybody's always looking for pitching. I had a pitcher from New Hampshire who's now at Tulane, and he didn't get recruited until his senior summer after he had graduated high school.
Hey, Walter, real quick, I'd like to add something to that.
Sure.
You know, to kind of tie into what you were talking about, your story of sitting at a Starbucks looking for some help. And I think a lot of parents probably can relate to that. You don't have to go and spend a lot of money on these high-end trainers either. The things that Walter's talking about there is pretty basic stuff from a training perspective. It's calorie intake, it's taking care of your body, it's eating right, it's doing the right things. There's a lot of material, a lot of information out there. So you don't have to go and find the high-priced trainer at your local, batting cage training facility to do that. So there's a lot of options that you can do, right at your house to focus on those areas.
Eric, and I just have somebody who said they just to your delight. I don't know if you can read that, but that's somebody that is.
I see it. Yeah, make sure you go to. We started a YouTube channel, and I didn't want to compete with Walter. He's a lot better looking than me, so I do a lot more on the podcasts of Apple and Spotify. In the last, I think, month, I've got another like 20. Again, I focus on kind of those mid-major, lower tiered coaches, which they all have great programs. These guys they're amazing coaches. So take a look at some of those podcasts. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I have another question that came in via Twitter, and they want me to discuss, the different levels of college baseball. So I won't spend too much time on this, but I want to make sure that we are, answering questions as they come in. So with the NCAA, we have divisions 1, 2, and 3. And just for point of reference, tremendous app that people can find over on Twitter called College Baseball Insights. The gentleman that runs this, it's a labor of love, but he gives you such fantastic insights into college recruiting. But, playing Division I baseball, and so I want parents to kind of understand some of these numbers, because I think it's important for parents to understand what the real numbers look like. And so for Division I baseball, we're talking about a total of approximately 11,000 student athletes. NCAA Division II, we're talking approximately 10,000 student athletes. NCAA Division III, we're talking approximately 14,000 athletes. So let's just start with the NCAA. If we add those numbers up in a quick math, it's approximately 36,000 student athletes that play NCAA sanctioned baseball. When you start to add in the NAIA, which is Divisions 1 and 2 NAIA, schools like Lewis and Clark, LSU Alexandria, LSU Shreveport, Lee University, and Gwinnett College down in Georgia. Now we're starting to talk about an NAIA is a 4-year program. It competes with the NCAA. Their rules and regulations are a lot different. But I always encourage parents, look at both the NCAA as well as the NAIA schools as 4-year schools, and kind of take a look as far as what school, as far as the academics, the social, the culture, the location, with regard to geographics for access for families and so forth. Those are important things. It's fully, you could commit to an NCAA school and an NAIA school and make your ultimate decision the fall of your senior year. And then we have the junior college realm, which is the NJCAA. So the junior colleges have 3 levels as well: Division 1, 2, and 3. Division 3, there's not really a lot of scholarships. Division 1, they generally have scholarships, as do Division 2, and they tend to be more books and housing, depending upon your GPA. JUCOs now have become a totally different animal. It is, if you're a parent and you feel that you have some familiarity with junior college, you probably don't have as much as you think. It's not the same environment. And a
Great point.
question that I know is coming in because I saw her typing it. I just want to, and she's asking me about fall baseball for all of these college divisions. Fall baseball, I can't put it any other way other than to tell parents as well as student athletes, fall baseball is a tryout. It is a extremely competitive 6 to 8 weeks. There are many more players in the fall than there will be in the spring. Some schools at the NCAA Division One level had as many as 55, almost 60 players on their fall roster. This is all, you can look at this online. You can go to Google. Junior colleges can have as many as 70 to 80 student athletes. Some junior colleges have JV teams. So you have to really begin to do a deeper dive when we're starting to talk about JUCO baseball. It's far more competitive than I believe parents feel that it is, more importantly than student athletes feel that it is. If you've watched any of our college coaches' corners with guys like Jeff Willis at LSU Eunice, 7-time national champion. We're going to have Jeff Major on from Northern Essex, and they're a junior college World Series Division III participant over 4 of the last 6 years. They're getting a lot more players than they ever had access to before because of the portal, because of the nature of the beast above with older players. There's no room at the end. That comes from Major League Draft, eliminating short season teams. There's a lot of information that parents really need to understand. But I'm going to just explain to you that fall baseball is not high school fall baseball. You need to be ready to compete. You need to be at your best. You need to make sure that you're coming off of your summer as a graduating senior and be prepared physically, more importantly, mentally, to be competitive in a fall environment. Because not only are you fighting for a starting position, you're fighting for a roster spot. And if you know that and you prepare for that now, it's going to help you by the time you get to your senior year. And going back to those numbers, I want parents to really have a good, clear understanding. At the younger ages, 6 through, say, 13, we have over 2.5 to 3 million players playing the sport of baseball. That number dwindles down to approximately 500,000 student athletes that play at the high school levels, whether that's JV, freshman, varsity, etc. I know the state of Massachusetts has over 300 high school teams that play high school baseball. So, if we do the math with 15 student athletes, that's 4,500 players in the state of Massachusetts. The vast majority of high school student athletes, of that 500,000 number, they all have some inkling or desire to possibly play in college. The total number between junior college, NAIA, NCAA is approximately 60,000 student athletes. And so if you start to look, that's almost a little more than 10% that's playing. But now let's look at it and break down some numbers even further. 2% of that number plays Division One. The vast majority at Division One NCAA level, the vast majority of student athletes are going to play at the junior college Division III level or the NCAA Division III level, and a lot of that has to do with academics. One on one end of the spectrum and the other at the lower end of the spectrum. The higher end of the spectrum is NCAA Division III. Tufts, Bates, Bowdoin, Emory, Ohio Wesleyan. I could rattle off a whole bunch of schools. They're high-level academics. In some cases, they're rated higher than Ivy League and Patriot League schools. And so student athletes aspire for that type of education. They're going to go NCAA Division III. Other end of the spectrum, junior college Division III tends to be for those student athletes that need to brush up on some academics. They need to qualify through the clearinghouse. And I encourage all parents, if you have a son that is a junior or younger, apply to the NCAA clearinghouse and make sure that your sons are all eligible under those rules as far as GPAs, test scores, etc. Because you may find out that your son may be lacking in eligibility academically. And this is where the junior college coaches begin to come out and start to recruit when they kind of get an idea that somebody may not meet academic eligibility or requirements. Let's see. A Division I school shows a 40-man roster for 2023 on their website, but just yesterday posted on Twitter an upcoming tryout for walk-ons. What do you think might be going on here? Okay. So I want to make sure this is the purpose, and this is going to happen every Tuesday. Eric and I are going to be here. We'll spend about an hour with everyone, and we'll get to as many. I have a whole bunch of questions coming in on my phone via Twitter. The ones that are coming in from YouTube and Facebook come here live. What's going on there is, let's take the fall baseball. Fall baseball, if we took NCAA schools, Division I and II, and let's assume for the sake of this discussion that there are 500 schools. If we have 500 schools that release or cut ties with 10 players, that means 5,000 student athletes suddenly are, floating around looking for spots. So for those parents and student athletes that are on a junior college roster thinking like, hey, I'm safe here, nobody can hurt me here, and all of a sudden 5 guys get cut from an SEC school and they show up at your JUCO, you're in a lot of pressure. Also, NCAA Division III. Everybody thinks NCAA Division III, it's just like my high school team. Wrong, because guys want to play baseball and they still have eligibility left. And so if I could tell you a story about Eastern Connecticut that I've told thousands of times, Eastern Connecticut, NCAA Division III, last year went 49-3. A large portion of their roster was former Division I players. So when you see a college roster that is saying that we're going to have 40 men on our roster, 27 or 32 being active, and they're still holding tryouts for walk-ons, that means somebody could come in from the portal. Coaches haven't had enough time to gather video. And they're going to give those guys a little bit of a leash, maybe 7 to 10 days, to see if they have any juice in the tank. And so my point to this whole thing that we're doing is to educate student athletes and parents to understand after high school, baseball is a business. College coaches are men. They get hired by athletic departments in universities to win. They have a quality program that excites the alumni, that brings in male students. I know because I used to have that meeting with my athletic director at the college level saying, we would really like you to have an incoming class of 15 or 22 or whatever the number they gave me. So college coaches are looking for student athletes that want to do one thing: compete. If you're ready to compete, a college coach wants you a part of the program. If you want to tell the college coaches what you did and what you used to do, that's not going to help you tomorrow. So parents are led to believe once I commit, they love me, they love my son, everything's going to be great. Then they show up in the fall, and the coach that was so warm and receptive to calls and texts and emails suddenly becomes Sergeant Hulka. So he's got a whistle around his neck. He's got a visor on. He's got a clipboard. He's watching every move you make in and out of the classroom. And it's competition time. And so, one of the things, Eric, that you want to share with people, and when you talk to people on your Apple podcast, get the coaches to talk about the Omaha Challenge or the equivalent types of events that they run. And these are usually 3-day to 4-day grueling is being kind, athletic competitions with regard to conditioning, strength. And I can remember Tyler saying to me, Dad, it's Omaha Challenge. Do yourself a favor, go on YouTube, just type in Omaha Challenge, pick your school of choice. It could be Ole Miss, it could be Vanderbilt, could be University of Tampa, Arkansas, what have you, and look at what is going on. And as a student athlete, ask yourself, am I ready for an Omaha Challenge. Because if you're not, that's a separator. That's one of those things that coaches are going to know. You can't be trusted. If you can't be prepared to compete in the fall, how can I trust you to be prepared to compete in the spring? And so that's kind of how that works. So walk-ons are always going to happen. Transfers are always going to happen. The portal is not new. The transfer portal is not new. It has been around for decades. They tweak it, but now they've over tweaked it to be very pro student athlete, multiple times to transfer, multiple times of the year. So you might have made it out of the fall and earned a roster spot in the fall, and all of a sudden somebody transfers in from another school, and now you get kind of pushed back a little bit. And so you kind of want to know where you stand at the end of the fall.
Walter, we got one more question. If you don't mind, I grab it.
Yep.
It was to clarify, JUCOs consider students with great GPAs, right? Well, yes. I think one of the things that might be a misnomer is, and when Walter says it, it's a rule of thumb. It's not necessarily something that's consistent across the board. There's a lot of JUCOs that are high academics, but they also know that it's a stepping stone. So it could be not ready to go, leave the home yet. Maybe it's a financial concern. I know a lot of states are now paying for the 2-year programs within the state. So from a financial perspective, it's good. It may be that your son doesn't know what they want to do. So I just put 2 daughters through school, and the worst thing in the world is that they're excited and then they're not, and then all of a sudden 2 years might be thrown away. So there's a lot of reasons to consider at every level, right? And baseball is one of those decision points. It's location, it's campus life. I literally just got off the phone, did a podcast, and I think I just posted it with Coach Palmer up in Central Maine Community College. Absolutely gorgeous campus. They've got a brand new stadium. There's dormitories. It's a very tight-knit, wonderful community. And there's a lot of kids that go there, but he knows that he's bringing these kids in, and the ones that are good and the ones that have expressed that they want to go on to a 4-year school, they all of a sudden they've got a recruiter for them, right? That coach is there to help them get to that next level. So there's a lot of benefits to it. It's not just the guys that are struggling with their GPA. There's a lot of reasons why you should consider one. And there's other reasons to look elsewhere. So don't always focus on the JUCO schools as something that you may need help on the GPA. Again, that is part of it, but it's not the only thing.
Let's get down to the bottom line as a parent. Cost. You have to ask yourself, when your student athlete is considering college, and let's say they aspire to play baseball at a high level, the biggest misunderstanding or lack of awareness does not matter. I don't care what your travel ball coach says. Does not matter what school you attend. It matters if you're going to get the real opportunity to be able to participate and get between the lines. And we all talk about these big programs and, all this Division I hype. And I get it. But if you go and look as a parent to keep yourself informed, open the Major League Baseball directory or encyclopedia of this year's current major leaguers. Look where they're from. Look where they went to school. They went to high school. They went to JUCO. They went Division III. They went Division II. Some went independent league. Some didn't end up playing professional baseball as far as an organized team until they were 24, 25, or 26. They had to play independent baseball. Number one thing is your academic.
Absolutely.
Now, I am not college educated. I've stated that a million times. I've paid my dues for over 45 years, not getting a college education. What does a college case? I had a parent push back at me and say, it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. But here's what it does mean. When your child goes for a potential job interview, maybe they want to own their own business and they have to go to the local bank. what does a degree say to a potential employer or a potential business opportunity? College shows that you dedicated time, effort, energy to a goal. It means that you showed up and you were accountable. It means that you took pride in obtaining the degree. If you're a student athlete, all the better. Now they know you really had to work hard because you had demands athletically, demands academically, and you tried to get in some social activities. You're a well-spoken young man. That degree, that's what it's saying to a potential employer. That's what baseball should be used for. That's what youth sports should be used for. When I recruited student athletes, I'll tell you a great quick story. Twin brothers from Southbridge, Massachusetts. Today, they are both 37 years old. One was a good high school student, academically good. The twin brother, not so much. Together, they were both studs athletically. The older of the twins was getting recruited to play baseball at Division I level. He would not leave his twin brother. The father and mother said that the other brother would never be able to go to college, would never get a degree. It was a waste of time, and it was all about baseball. I'm happy to report that both brothers were not only MVPs in college baseball. One played professionally, but they both have college degrees. They're both married, have great jobs and children. My point is, that's what college athletics is all about. Don't fall victim to, you need to be in this lesson. You need to be in this showcase. You need to be at this camp. You need to pay this money. No. What you need to do is be informed. You need to be educated and informed. Now, Eric brings up a good point. I want to touch on it before I answer this next question. Junior college, much more affordable way to enter college is through junior college. Now, if you are an extremely high-level academic, and I'm talking about that 27 and above ACT, that 1200 and above SAT, that 3.7, 3.5 weighted GPA. Division III, great opportunity, and they give a lot of academic merit money. And that's really what you want to focus on is academic merit money. But if you have some technical difficulties or you want to save money, let's say you're a good high school student, you get a 3.0, you got a 23 ACT, those junior colleges are going to provide you with a vehicle by which you can get your first 2 years of college, which freshman and sophomore year in college, they're pretty much the same at every school and university in the country. Some have bigger names than others, but I can assure you that your basic math, English, language, science, all those things can be done in a junior college environment, thus saving the family a significant amount of money, potentially allowing your student athlete to get between the lines, play more, get bigger, get stronger, and be recruited or re-recruited as a sophomore at the junior college level. I have one more question that we're going to get to. I got to put my glasses on for this, Eric, because, and I don't want to bore people. We'll do this for about an hour. I'm not going to go longer than that. And I have to whip out my cell phone here. Okay, so Division III baseball. And the parent wants me to discuss why most student athletes end up going Division III. And so here's the reason for that. The numbers are larger because there's more schools, first and foremost. So, Division I, we have approximately 12,000 student athletes. We have approximately 10 in Division II and 14 in Division III. That's due in large part to the sheer number of Division III universities. Now, there are some Division III universities that choose to do that because their focus is academics. I'm just going to use something that's in my backyard, and that's Amherst University. Amherst probably is a top 5 academic institution in the world. To get into Amherst is an extremely difficult endeavor if you're just, a high quality student. If you're a student athlete and you have, certain what they call minimum requirements, and you're able to get into Amherst, that is a life-altering process. And so what I want to make parents aware of is if the amount of student athletes universally that play college baseball do not end up playing professional baseball. As a matter of fact, less than 2% of all college baseball players, less than 2% get the opportunity to play professional baseball. That's not Major League Baseball. And so it's a minor miracle to play beyond college. You know, that famous ad the NCAA has all the athletes and say 95% of us will never play beyond college. Well, with regard to baseball, it's more like 97, 98%. Division III baseball. I can speak to this because I was a head coach at that level. It's the final frontier for your son to be a part of an organized team that matters, that means something. They're together essentially all 8 months of the college season. And they become brothers. They become best men in weddings. They come back for reunions. They call and text and say, hey, coach, I just had a baby boy. Division III baseball is probably one of the greatest experiences that a student athlete can have because it's an intimate, smaller campus community. The academics are strong or stronger in most cases. The athletic competitions are just as challenging. A good friend of mine, John Casey, was a head coach at Tufts University for over 40 years. John had teams routinely that could beat Boston College in their backyard. He just didn't have the depth. You know, a Division I team can run out 95-mile-an-hour arms these days. Division III might have 2 or 3 of those guys, but they have a lot of really good baseball players. No Division III coach goes out to recruit a Division III student athlete. No student athlete that I ever recruited said, oh boy, I can't wait to play at Becker College, Division III. You know, they all aspire, they all have dreams, but at the end of the day, the whole process that we're going to start to educate parents and student athletes on is about the vehicle that college provides for these students that will last decades, way beyond the diamond of baseball. And so I really think if we start to focus our attention on meaningful preparation, meaningful discussions, you know, as far as strength, caloric intake, academics, and really be able to help chart courses. And that's what the Blue Book is really. The Blue Book and I have formed this union, and our sole purpose and intent, and Eric, you correct me if I'm wrong, is to provide parents insight, opportunities, but most importantly, access.
Access, yep.
You know, the access is going to be, you'll be able to post a video on Blue Book. This is how much it costs. You'll be able to get feedback. And in the future, you're going to be able to send direct messages to college coaches. You'll be able to talent evaluators. You know, what's a talent evaluator? Somebody that's a coach that knows how to break down skill set and kind of give you some understanding of what maybe you should brush up or clean up before you go sending out that video. We're going to give you access and answers, all on that platform that'll be on the app. And it's all baseball all the time. You don't have to sift through basketball, football, politics, red, left, blue, everything is baseball. And that's it. And that's all I want to do is baseball. And I think, Eric, unless I'm wrong, that's kind of the mission for both of us.
No, it is. And I think we spent a lot of time tonight talking just about different levels of play. I think one of the things that parents need to really understand is the number of schools. So, you know, we all get excited about the D1s, right? You're not putting a banner up of Swarthmore or Salisbury D3 school that you don't have posters on your wall. You've got the big teams, the Power Fives. But when the Blue Book, you can go build a profile, doesn't cost you anything. Go to the directory, you can put your state in there. You can select the different levels of play, or just put your state in there and see that there's hundreds of schools. I think that we really don't realize how many schools there are that have baseball programs. And then you can start doing a little bit more, digging and diving. One of the things I love talking to coaches about, I always ask them, I said, what's the most important? What's one thing that the advice that you'd give to these players that are taking a look at playing ball at the next level? They said, you got to take a look at the schools more than you are the actual, spend 80-90% out away from baseball. And you've got to understand what you're getting. There's a lot of options, right? So you've got to take a look at where you are. Do you want to live on campus? Do you want a rural environment? Walter was talking about D3, a lot of very intimate, smaller schools. It's not the behemoth 50,000 students with the 100,000 seats in the stadium. If that's what you want, that's great. But there's a lot of other ones that may be right down the road that is a little bit more comfortable, maybe a little better of a transition. But one of the things the Blue Book does is that access. Go in there, you can do searches, you can find the information that you want. We've got links to all of the programs, to their recruiting forums, to their maps, so you can see it. That's what I like about it. One of my favorite things is just getting on there and picking a state and seeing how many different schools there are and the locations and what they're focused on. So no, absolutely, Walter.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up because I have one last question, and I want to make sure I end on this because I think it's important. I'm not here. My goal is not to talk about travel baseball programs, instructors, specific coaches, none of that. I will not engage. That's not my forte, nor is it. I don't have any interest in that. What we're going to do, though, is continue to talk to college coaches. We're going to continue to talk to high school coaches, major league, minor league players and coaches. They're going to share their journeys as youth baseball players. They're not going to tell you what life is like as a big leaguer. They're going to talk to you, us, about their journeys and how they might have done things differently, what they enjoyed, what they wish they would have passed on. The last thing I want to discuss is this is going to happen every Tuesday night, 9:00. Thursday night is for our college coaches. This Thursday, we have Jay Ullman from Tulane, head coach at Tulane. Next week on Thursday, we have Eric Bakich, head coach at Clemson. Have some special guests that I'm lining up for the end of December. We may do a live show from the ABCA. I'm not really sure how that's going to go quite yet. But our goal here is to simply answer questions, provide insight. And so on that note, if you could you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, spread the word, let people know about the Blue Book. The app is called Baseball Bluebook, or you just type in Blue Book and it will come up, Blue Book BB, baseball. I'm Baseball Lifer 11 on Twitter. Obviously, here, if you're on the YouTube channel, it's Baseball Lifer. We just want to create an awareness and create a community, and that's our hope and our goal. So next Tuesday, same time. I have a couple of questions. I'll use them to start next week's. So I haven't forgotten about you, two dads from the Northeast. I will get to your questions. And join us on Thursday night at 9:00 when we're talking with Jay Ullman at Tulane. Eric will probably join us as well. We'll have all the Blue Book discussion with Coach Ullman as well. I want to thank everybody for joining us. If you liked tonight's presentation, could you do Eric and I a favor? Give us a thumbs up. Spread a little cheer on Twitter. Let people know that you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think by the comments down below. And we'll see you next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. You good with that, Eric?
Sounds good. Walter, thank you. Great job.
All right, folks. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. Have a great week and look forward to seeing everybody over on Baseball Lifer on YouTube on Thursday night, 9 p.m.
All right.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Bye now.